Hey guys, welcome back to the COVID Cocktail Club. As promised, we are very excited to have a special guest, as you can see on the screen here today. Before I get into speaking to John Cosgrove and why we invited him here today, I will say that John and his wife Yvonne, along with Ricey and Brian and Marcy and I, are our annual Negroni Week partakers. We often hit various bars across town, sort of checking out what's going on. And really, I feel like the three of us, together have learned a lot in the last few years. And hopefully you guys are sensing that in these daily episodes. And I will also say that the beauty of having John on today is I'm not as big of a nerd. John knows a lot more than I do, as you guys will hear shortly about Sotol, one of our spirits. And lastly, I will say that the inspiration for today was based on a restaurant here in town called Caracol. So if you're from Houston, you guys, I'm sure, know it's one of Hugo Ortega's restaurants. And there's a drink there called the Hard Sun that we're going to be experimenting with today that John, I think, is probably better at making than Ricey and I by far. So we have sort of tapped into his expertise today to teach us more about it. Ricey, anything you want to add that I didn't touch on?
I love Caracol. I love John. I love spicy agave-based drinks, and I think y'all are gonna love this one because it's got just the right amount of spice and sweet, and you can, again, alter it to make it spicier or sweeter, according to your own taste, and I think this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Thanks for coming, John.
Well, thank you for having me. I am very excited to be part of the COVID Cocktail Club, and more importantly, to share a cocktail with y'all, because I have missed our outings.
Yes.
And this is probably my favorite drink in Houston. I mean, we go to Caracol and we love to sit at the bar. And unfortunately, I've only watched the drink be made like a million times. And the only thing I know is that it's made differently every time. So I have done my best to recreate it. And hopefully these riffs will be exciting and interesting.
He said it, not you, Jason.
I know, he's already part of the team. He's using the word riff more than I have. So Sotol, tell us about Sotol. I know a little bit about it, and I can certainly add a few points here, but Sotol is something that I just became familiar with in the last year or so because of this drink, and I know you probably know a lot about it. So can you tell everybody what Sotol is?
Sure. Sotol is actually the cactus itself. It is named for it, unlike mezcal and tequila, which are agave-based drinks. The Sotol is the plant, and it's been around for about 800 years, and they have been making alcohol with it in Mexico, mostly from Chihuahua. And it's from the Chihuahuan Desert. So, and that's through like Durango all the way into Southwest Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. So it hasn't been wildly popular from a commercial sense until the last few years. But now you're starting to see it kind of catch on as mezcal did a few years back. And there is actually now production in Texas. It's a slightly smoother, creamier finish than tequila, which is probably a little stronger on the throat when it goes down. So it's an interesting, it plays well with, heat with the citruses. So I hope y'all enjoy.
Does it have any of the smoke of mezcal?
It is distilled in a similar manner to mezcal. They do bury it in the ground and cook it. So some of them are smokier than others. It's not as pronounced as it is in mezcal, but it certainly can take on that.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you said it's sort of related, but it's not from an agave plant. I read an article earlier, and it called Sotol the dangerously delicious cousin to tequila and mezcal. So it's similar, but it's also very different. So I think it's fun to experiment. It's the one I'm using today is actually in the recipe at Caracol. It's the Hacienda.
And I don't have any Sotol on hand right now, so I'm gonna shockingly use mezcal today.
And everyone out there, if you don't have mezcal or Sotol, certainly tequila would work. But I also see each of you guys have Italicus out, whereas I have Saint Germain, which is in the original recipe. I prefer Italicus, as you guys do as well, but that's another variation you can make with the same cocktail. You're gonna find at the end of this cocktail, we do top it off with Cava, Prosecco, what have you, a bubbly. Which gives it sort of, it's sort of interesting to mix an agave, or in this case, Sotol-based spirit with a bubbly. So this will be a first for us, I think, as well.
Right, and I don't forget that, you know, kind of one of the bigger flavor profiles in it is the passion fruit.
Yeah.
Which is a syrup, and I make it using a frozen juice, which is extremely tart, and then I reduce it in a pan like you would to make a simple syrup. So equal parts the juice plus sugar kind of renders a sweet tart syrup. I know y'all may be experimenting with a couple different flavors today.
I think that that's the trickiest ingredient in this recipe is the passion fruit. So this may be the hardest one for you guys to figure out sort of how to do. I super cheated and these guys are making fun of me, but I got, I have a passion fruit syrup that's already done. And because he's commercially available, he's gonna be super sweet. So I'll probably take down the amount of that a little bit because he's gonna be very, very, very sweet. But you know, it's just easier to use less of it and to have that available.
I'm not sure yours is as bad as mine. I'm actually getting ready to make fun. I actually didn't have passion fruit today. I could not find any on the fly, so I'm actually using a mango nectar, which is not passion fruit. It's a cousin, much like Soto is to tequila. So, anyways, joking aside, I'm using mango, but passion fruit really is the main ingredient if you can find it out there. Guys, aside from the fancy passion fruit that John has and that Brycey sort of has and that I do not have, we're going to touch on the ice cube, because ice cube in this particular cocktail, if you can achieve what John and Ricey did and I did not do, I think you'll find this is an even cooler drink.
So the ice cube that I made, I do it in the mold for the clear ice, and the idea behind the drink is that it kind of slowly releases the heat of the jalapeno into the drink as the ice melts. So in this case, I'm going to dump it out and show y'all that the jalapeno is in the bottom of the ice cube and frozen right in, and then you pour the drink over that, and the heat will just kind of infuse the drink while you're drinking it.
There you go.
So, and I think that's a step for a quicker, easier approach. You can muddle a jalapeno in your shaker, or you can just throw a slice in and it will muddle itself while you shake.
Yeah, which is what I'm doing today. Rice, will you explain how you got the jalapeno to sit there kind of in the ice itself? Because I know it's a two-step process.
Well, I tried. So when I did it, I made the ice, I made it go like halfway, sort of up the mold, and I put slices of jalapeno with no seeds, without the seeds, and coriander seeds in there, and then let it freeze, and then added the rest of the water and let that freeze. So it took 2 days. Play with it. It's a little bit suspended. Actually, it came out okay.
I think it's very cool.
I sort of,
yeah, I had the same. I had the same
the two-step freezing. You got that cloudy bit in the middle.
That is the definition of a first world problem. I think it's much more impressive than my clear ice. And again, if you guys have the time, I think it's fun to experiment with that. So, all right.
Okay, let's make it.
Let's make.
Since I'm the only one using a clear ice mold without the jalapeno in it, I am throwing fresh jalapeno in my shaker tin. I'm actually not going to muddle it. I'm going to go with John's point about, because we're going to have ice, other things in there to agitate it, I'm going to just let it sort of self-muddle. If you want it extra spicy, certainly muddle it. Leave seeds in there if you want it extra spicy. I'm not. Okay?
Definitely, if you leave the seeds in, it can get very spicy.
Yes. So, fire everywhere. All right.
I threw some in too.
All right, we ready? So I'm using Soto, 1.5 ounces of Soto.
1.5 ounces of mezcal.
1.5 ounces of Soto.
And then now Saint Germain is pretty overpowering. Italicus is not quite as sweet, but I'm going with just 1/2 ounce. I don't know what you guys are doing with your Italicus.
I'm going with 1/2 ounce as well.
Me too.
And then I'm going with 3/4 ounces each of lime and, in my case, mango.
I took it down a little bit. I did 1/2 ounce of syrup and 1 ounce of lime.
Okay.
That's because I expect my syrup to be pretty sweet.
So we add ice and shake.
I'm going to put my ice in first. So you can see my very pretty jalapeno. and strain it over your ice.
I'm choosing to double strain it just to keep it a little clearer, but you don't necessarily have to.
Jason likes extra work.
We have time, right? Plenty of time. Okay, we have our cava, our prosecco, our bubbly, whatever we're using.
And I always like to garnish with a lemon wheel just placed on top of the ice cube.
It's a good idea.
Ooh.
And then just top it with the cava or prosecco.
Ooh, how pretty.
And then I always give it just a little stir.
So, guys, these look delicious.
Amazing. I'm really excited about this Hard Sun. I'm going to feel just like I'm at Caracol with you guys.
So who's cooking next week? We got to bring some Caracol food in. Brycey, do you want to call Hugo Ortega, see if you can get him on Zoom next week?
No problem. Absolutely.
John, thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome.
Well, thank you for having me, and I can't wait to be back at the bar together.
Yes, hopefully we'll have some Negroni week at some point this summer together.
Yeah,
So fun.
looking forward to it for sure.
Bryce,
All right.
what's on for tomorrow?
For tomorrow, you guys need to go clip your mint, go grab your bourbon, and polish your silver cups. That's all I'll say.
All right. Cheers, John.
Cheers.
Cheers, John.
Cheers, Bryce.
Cheers, Jason.